that distributes them to different grocery stores and stuff.
Oh, I don't know.
I thought it
So,
was
yeah.
millions.
They converted half the barn into like a walk-in cooler that then, but these are farm fresh eggs, so they haven't been washed, so whenever they bring this on, they can sit on the counter for a minute and be good, because they're not been washed or anything. But yeah, just Northwest Arkansas, just south of Blue Line, just south of Blue Line. Mhm, like 4 miles.
Have you ever heard of Bio?
Yes, I used to go camping there with my friends in high school.
Really?
Mhm.
We haven't had any.
See the sign for fishing and fun?
I'm sure I did.
You know where you make fun?
Uh-huh, exactly.
If you're
2 hours.
going towards Shell, you go
Yeah.
straight. If you're
Okay.
going towards Blue Line,
Yes.
Anyway, that's where
Yeah,
my dad built it. Put in all the roads and forest, which that's not there now, but it's completely different. It's
Yeah.
So. When I lived there, that's-
yeah. And. Yeah,
Used to do my homework on a 14-foot aluminum boat,
yeah,
just go out and have that to a boat.
I don't think those are.
it's so pretty down there. My parents had a house over in Sheldon for a little while, down in H Highway. I mean, like at the very end of H Highway.
Are you over there tonight?
Turn right and go to that resort, Indian
Okay.
something resort, and you turn left and go to that house. But
We can't get too long because I've got a job in the morning.
yes, oh yeah. But no, our farm, and so then our house is 13 miles closer to Green Forest on 311 still is the side we were on. But yeah, so we were all over that area all the time. I was a teenager, there's nothing to do but drive around, so that's all we did. But I had some friends who like to go camping, so we'd go over to Viola, we'd go over to Bull Shoals and over by Lead Hill and then try to go back there by Beaver. So we try to hit all the spots and go camping and stuff.
Yes.
It's so pretty though. There, yeah, and it's a nice quiet. I like it.
He's not here, so he's right.
Next year.
My closet bed.
That's where we moved from. So back up there about 70. About 7 years in the game.
Oh, Adam? Howdy.
The 3 boys came along and we got.
You gotta go. Yeah,
Here we go. Isn't your spring break?
it's awesome.
Everybody ready to go? Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to our March Planning and Zoning meeting. We'll go ahead and get started, and as always, we'll start with the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting on February 24th. If you've had time to review, if there's any amendments or changes that you've noticed, need to bring those forward, and if not, we're looking for a motion to approve those minutes. Okay, Suzanne approved motion 1. Second,
I'll second.
Trevor, okay. Just go ahead and call a roll call for that, please. Ava, you doing that tonight?
I'm actually gonna do that.
You're gonna do it still? Okay,
I'm a multitask.
all right, all right.
Chad Zickafoos.
Aye.
Lacey Colbert,
Aye.
Pete Renfro.
Aye.
Kayla Berger is absent. Jeff Garrison,
Aye.
Susan Daniel.
Aye.
Hadley Goldberg is absent. Adam Brown
Aye.
and Trevor Branch.
Aye.
You guys have it.
Thank you. And we have no visitors or guests this evening and no unfinished business, so we'll move right on into the new business for this evening. First up is the annexation 25-0001. The property location is 6101 North 23rd Street. Property owner is En Route Holdings LLC. Megan, go ahead.
Okay. So this is on this annexation is on the north side of the city. James River Church is to the east on across Highway 65. It is just north of the highway CC&J exit. And then it is just south, as you can see, of Walk On Drive. So kind of that first exit as you're coming from Springfield. So based on the Missouri state statutes and our guiding factors for annexation, currently, of course, it is in the Christian County area, but it is abutted by city limits to the west. And then it is in tier 1 of our urban service area, which is because it is within 300 feet of our water and sewer systems. And then it also is compact and contiguous, so it is touching city limits. So it meets all 3 criteria for annexation. And we will also be seeing a zoning application as our next application. It's in conjunction with this. And it has been gone through the public notice. They had a neighborhood meeting and there were no residents who came to ask any questions. Staff also haven't heard any inquiries about what the application or any problems cited for the application. And we recommend annexation of this 1 acre parcel.
Okay. Is the owner of the property or representative such here to speak this evening? If you'd like to add something to that, or up to you, sir.
Yeah.
Here.
Dave Richards, I'm the engineering, I'm representing for this annexation zone.
Okay.
And that's a really thorough explanation. We have to rezone to this. They own the property in the business park. Business is going well. They're looking to expand their facilities. And so this is an old business park, very small Christian kind of residential zoning, even though that's not a conforming use for them. So, yeah, any question?
Okay, we'll call, and what was your first name?
Daniel. Richards.
Daniel, okay. Okay, we'll call you up if we have any questions. Thank you. We'll go ahead at this time, open up for public comment or question for this annexation amendment. Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead and close the public portion and go ahead and open it up to commissioners for any comments, questions, or anything directed to Miss Megan, please. Yes, sir, Chad.
I got a question for Megan, just, when will they be required to connect to sewer?
They'll be required to connect when the actual building development application goes through.
Okay, so they won't be able to get a building permit until they have access to public sewer?
They are within 300 feet of public sewer. And so they will be connecting to that with the redevelopment of the property.
Okay. So they won't be required to extend sewer down Walk On Drive?
I believe they're going to come from the west, from north, from Cabinet Drive.
Okay, across the private
Yeah,
property.
I believe they're working on getting
Okay.
easements, I believe.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Did he take your thunder?
Yeah, but that's,
That's okay.
that's his lane.
Now, and just to clarify, you mentioned they would have to make the connection prior to a building permit being granted. Is that right?
Not necessarily before it's granted, but as part of the
process.
the
part of the
redevelopment.
product.
Yes,
Okay.
mhm.
And at whose cost would that be? Do the
That would be
developer, the owner?
the owner's
that-
cost,
okay.
yes. Mhm.
Okay. Anyone else? Trevor's way ahead of me. He's good to go. Everybody sums up. Pete, what about you? You're good? Susan, good? Okay. And we're looking for a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Pete? Second,
I'll second.
Adam?
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and roll call, please, Megan.
Pete Renfro.
Aye.
Hadley Goldberg is absent. Chad Zickafus.
Aye.
Lacey Colbert.
Aye.
Suzanne Daniel.
Aye.
Trevor Branch,
Aye.
Adam Brown,
Aye.
Jeff Garrison,
Aye,
and Caleb Berger is absent. The ayes have it.
thank you. All right, next up is our zoning amendment for the same property. Zoning amendment 25-0001, property location again, 6101 North 23rd Street. Property owner is En Route Holdings LLC. Existing zoning is R1 Suburban Residential District, which was county, but being annexed as we've discussed. Requested zoning is I1 Industrial District. Megan?
Yes, so of course, this is the same application as our annexation that we just had. It is 1 acre parcel of land approximately. And we look to our ordinances for guidance on how to determine zoning appropriateness. So we're looking at the zoning classification and the uses of the surrounding properties, as well as the general trend of development. And then we're also looking at the comprehensive plan's goals and how those are achieved through this application. And then last, the suitability of the property to existing permitted uses. So currently it is in the county and it is surrounded to the north, south, and east by county zoning. Most of those zonings are either light industrial / manufacturing or commercial, and that's generally what the uses are. There is some R1 to the southeast, which is also, a lot of those are industrial or commercial uses. As Daniel mentioned, this is an older subdivision, so there are some kind of outliers in terms of zoning for it. The subdivision itself is the Christian County Commercial Park. And so a lot of it is commercial in use or industrial. And so in addition to just the surrounding uses, to the west, you have an industrial use in the city, as well as that small subdivision entirely to the west is industrially zoned. There was a development on Walk-On Drive within the past couple of years that was developed as office warehouse. So north of this area. And then to the southeast, we actually just had a annexation and zoning for office warehouse within the past few years as well. So general trend is seeing more industrial, more office warehousing uses in the area. And then we also look at the zoning amendment in relation to the comprehensive plan. So targeting the highest and best use, residential may not be that best use, especially considering the surrounding area, which is industrial and warehousing. And it's located within the area with similar uses to what they have proposed. And with the redevelopment, you will also have some guidance in terms of like our site development requirements, additional landscaping, building setbacks. So kind of help negate any conflicts that may occur with the surrounding uses. And then you do have our water and sewer within 300 feet of the site, and the location, this road, North 23rd Street, does lead into Walk-On Drive, which is a commercial classified road with the city of Ozark. But we don't see very many significant concerns with respect to like the land use and the zoning in the surrounding area. There will be stormwater addressed with the redevelopment. Ozark Special Road District will be involved with the redevelopment and review of this property, as both 23rd Street and Walk-On Drive are under their jurisdiction and maintenance. And then the properties, like I said, the properties to the north and east are manufacturing and warehouse and use, and industrial would be supportive for our local economy. So again, there was a neighborhood meeting held, but no one attended, and staff have not had any concerns voiced to them about the rezoning, and we support the zoning amendment.
Okay, thank you. Danny, you don't want to speak to that, or are you good? Ready for questions if needed? Okay. All right, well, I'll go ahead and open up the public portion if anyone has any comments or questions towards this rezoning. And again, seeing no movement, we'll go ahead and close the public portion and open it up to the commissioners for any comments or questions. Adam, yes, sir.
When I drove by the property, it's kind of hard to tell on the screen, but I do know that with the minimum depth of the side yard being 20 feet, the current building looks like it's definitely less than 20 feet.
Mhm.
Now, in order to rezone this, obviously, if there's planned development of that building, if it's changing or coming down or anything like that, would it have to comply in order to accept this zoning?
So any, like, if they are going to tear down, which I believe is yes, they are planning on tearing down the building. So any new development would have to comply with our building.
Right, but
So
existing doesn't prevent it from changing.
generally, yes, they would have to go through the proper procedure for, like, if it was to be redevelopment,
Right.
redeveloped, they would have to make sure that it was compliant with our building code and such.
Right.
For the conversion of it,
Right.
but we wouldn't make them tear it down necessarily.
get-
just
yeah,
to
right.
Reuse it, yeah.
Just making sure compliant. So
Good.
that was my question.
Thank you, sir. So we could refer to that if they chose not to redevelop, it would be a legal non-conforming
Yeah.
property if they chose to just
In
leave
ter-
it.
In terms of the setbacks,
Right, that's
yes,
what I'm
yeah,
saying, yeah.
and
right.
they wouldn't be able to start a new use that was residential
Right.
on it.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyone else? Chad, good. Adam, Trevor, Lacey, Pete, and Suzanne. All right. Ready to move forward with the motion? I'll make the motion to approve her staff approval. I'll put one in there for myself.
I'll second.
Second, Suzanne, go ahead and roll call when you get there, Megan.
Jeff Garrison,
Aye.
Trevor Branch,
Aye.
Adam Brown,
Aye.
Pete Renfro,
Aye.
Suzanne Daniel. Caleb Berger is absent, Lacey Colbert.
Aye.
Chad Zickafus
Aye.
and Hadley Goldberg is absent. The ayes have it.
Thank you. All right. Next, will be a little more lengthy read. We have a variance request. Property location is 303 North 10th Street. A requested variance reducing buffer yard A on the western property line from the required 15 feet to a variable width of 5 to 15 feet along the developed western boundary, and waiving the buffer A requirement along the southern half western property line, and buffer yard B on the southern property line in the regulatory floodway. The floor is yours.
So one note, it's actually, they're requesting a variable width of 8 to 15 feet. Jeff read it right, but we had not caught that for the agenda,
You
so
took away one of my questions.
there you go. See, we try.
Okay.
A couple months ago, we had a variance for a buffer yard off of 11th Street. And so this is a similar situation where the development is requesting the Planning and Zoning Commission approve a variance for their buffer yard requirements, which is allowed per 405-780 part of our code, as long as they provide an alternative landscaping plan. And, you know, they're showing a creative way to address the buffer yard still. And so as Mr. Garrison pointed out, they're requesting that variance on the width of the buffer yard for the north portion of the east line, which instead of a 15-foot buffer entirely, they request an 8 to 15 feet. And then they are requesting a waiver of the buffer yard A and on the southern half, as well as the southern property line itself. Both of those, both the southern portion and the entirety of the south property line are within the regulatory floodway. And so that is part of the reason staff feel comfortable allowing for this request to come forward before you guys. So this is what our buffer yard A requirement would look like in general, kind of from an aerial view as well as like once it's fully matured, kind of plan view. And so that would be the buffer yard between this mostly multifamily. There's some mixed use in there, but primarily a multifamily use in between that and the nursing home to the west of the property. And so it's a 15-foot width, and then generally there are 1 canopy, 1 understory, and 6 shrubs for every 100 feet of property line. And there's no fence requirement for buffer yard A. A buffer yard B, which is the southern property line, has a 25-foot width. And for every 100 feet, there are 2 canopy, 2 understory, and 2 evergreen trees and 15 shrubs. And there is a 6-foot tall fence required for that. So this is the overall site plan for the landscape and it has specifics to the buffer yard requirements. So let me go back one. So generally, if you take into account their landscaping plan in the areas on the west and south side, we are about 20, they have about 25 shrubs over what they normally would be required per the buffer yard requirement. And then there are 12 trees over. So they are exceeding it. It's just not in the exact location of the buffer yard requirements. And they do have additional landscaping on the interior part of the kind of like in between the parking lot and the buildings themselves that aren't required. So you can see this is the northern half of the property. So you can see where they have pointed out on the western side that they are requesting the variance of the width. Part of that is due to the gas line that's running along the west side of the property. And then if you go to the next, this is the southern half, and that is that variance waiving the buffer yard requirement. Again, this is in the regulatory floodway. And so when you have that, you have to show that any changes are not impacting the flooding level at all. You have to show no rise if you are to develop anything in that. So, so some considerations. Does this promote creativity? Considering the site constraints. And then this is straight from the ordinance for our alternative landscape plan, looking at the site limitations, such as topography, streams, natural rock formations, vegetation. If there would be any safety concerns to the person or property with this variance, allowing mature and healthy vegetation to be preserved on site, and then additional landscaping and tree plantings elsewhere that would be visible from the public right of way. Those are all kind of considerations for an appropriate alternative landscape plan. And then staff support the variance to reduce the buffer yard width as well as the waiver mainly for the regulatory floodway impacts and such. So that is our section of the variance.
Okay, all right. Does anyone yeah, I thought you might want to come forward. Sure. Thank you. Name and company address or something along that line.
Oh, yes, I didn't know Megan was gonna provide such a detailed presentation, so I'll speed through this a little bit. As she said, that this has been like last 303 North 10th Street in Ozark. You can kind of see the location here. Here's Family Farms, the Career Center, and it's adjacent to the trail. 3.8 acre site. And the variance we're requesting is again from a 15-foot. I had in the report a 5 to 15 and 8 to 15 is probably just fine. I just want to provide as much flexibility with this is a very tight site. And I don't know how the engineering and the rest of the civil and stormwater, I just wanted to give ourselves enough buffer so we didn't have to come back. And hopefully we're providing enough coverage on the rest of the site to receive it. So waiver on that buffer yard along the western boundary, the southern portion that's in the floodplain completely, and then a waiver of the southern buffer yard requirement. Just get a little background on the existing conditions there. It is a PUD, part of the Ozarks revitalization plan, and adjacent properties to the west of T2, with the nursing facility to the east, the Ozarks School District, and to the north, the apartment main storage there. To the south, that's why we're getting kicked that buffer yard B. It's R1C, but currently it's vacant agricultural land. The nearest single family structure is right here. So I'll get to it in 2 seconds. But we plan to either site, and this property currently has a dilapidated commercial structure on it, and is vacant, and the developer is proposing a 80-unit multifamily development with total working space or offices. So, as Megan said, that there's an alternative landscape portion of your code that is interesting to navigate, provides a lot of flexibility, and we try to answer that to the best of our ability. But the site development is constrained mostly by that FEMA designated floodway, which covers over 50% of the site. And there's multiple utility easements on the west and north, and the east and the south on all directions. The western buffer yard is backed by a gas easement, and the required vehicle circulation and parking made practical. As Megan stated, we are supplying more than the amount of trees. It's just not getting that 15-foot plainly, so that's why we're here requesting that. The southern buffer yard is bordering that floodplain. The buffer yard may be impractical and make a tour easement, maybe even tighter. And that existing natural buffer between the Greenway Trail to the south and the Finley River, there's about 60 to 100 foot. The Greenway Trail meanders, and there's already a mature riparian forest there, significant buffer between just that section. And I do want to point out that that nearest resident property, not the zone, but the actual structure of the property line is 767 feet away. So here we are, the building will be about right here, and from where the building will sit to the nearest property line of the zone. They're both zones seem residential. I think our building try to make sense of this, but sometimes we can call them scratch. But this is vacant agricultural land, and floodplain, no single family will ever be able to be developed in that or any structure for that matter. Just wanted to point out that we're pretty far away from screening, and that's the requirement of a fence and a significant buffer yard with all this context. Seems practical. On the western side, we are 117 feet away from the building, and we can see there's still significant natural vegetation because that's a floodplain. Touched on the image to the right, you kind of see that flood zone taking up about 50% of the site and extending all the way near that residential property. I'm going to kind of go through these quickly because Megan went over it, but this is just a pictometry, a 3D aerial view of the site. You can see the dilapidated structure, the nursing home, significant distance in the riparian buffer between us and the single family property itself. This is looking east. This is looking west towards the nursing home. You can see the existing vegetation in the floodplain, and then some of these trees will have to be removed, but over 7 of the existing mature canopy, trees over 30 inches DBH diameter and breast height, so they're big mature trees that are being saved on the site, and 2 are being saved on this western boundary. Some more justification for the alternative landscape plan utility complex. In the north, we have overhead electric lines and gas lines. We have underground gas lines on the western side and sanitary sewer easement on the southern side. The eastern side on 10th Street also has some conflicts, but they're a little farther out. And alternative compliance allows street preservation, so we're preserving the mature trees and enhancing the public facing landscaping. And what I mean by that, at the corner of 10th and Hall, where the building kind of hugs that corner, we provide a lot of landscaping addressing the frontage of the building. That reading south, that's the first thing you see is it's enhanced landscaping with a lot of dense native vegetation, sub-canopy trees, and 400 plus shrubs. So this is just a visual representation of the utility conflicts. The overhead on Hall, the gas easement, and you can see the property line right here. And gas easement straddles that, and you have a section of your code when the buffer yard cannot meet the boundary, that you push it as far interior as possible. We try to do that in front of the parking lot, to the best of our ability. You can see the FEMA floodway, sewer easement crossing here, and you have the trail easement, you know, gas and water line. So 50% of the site being floodplain, and then an 80-unit development on a PUD makes this very, very tight. So this is the site as is, and then that's kind of just a visual of where we're looking for that variable width. Like I said, we are meeting the required for the trees in the understory and the shrub, I believe. Yeah, we're adding 9 more canopy trees that's required, that's the entire length, but it just doesn't keep free. And then waving to the southern portion here. You can kind of see in this image, you can see that it's pretty hard to see. It's an evergreen buffer. We have some American hollies planted on the perimeter, some native white oaks, and then a lot of native large shrubs. When we say shrubs, they could be 2 to 3 foot shrubs. These are 8 to 12 foot large stem shrubs that when they're planted close together, they form a continuous hedge. So this is more of a buffer. They're not clustered and they're providing a significant screen, even with the reduced buffer. For the southern side, the minimum footage that's required for us is 25 feet, 9 required, 10 understory, 10 evergreen, 70 shrubs, and a 6-foot fence pillar here in the floodplain. We are providing tree preservation of 24 trees. That's credits. I think there's 7 trees, but 3 are of significant size. I think we calculated around 24 credited for this. As long as 3 native oaks, 19 native, serviceberry, pawpaws, and redwoods. So very beautification of that trail. When you're looking out, you'll see a lot of spring flowers, a lot of those sharply native fruits, amenable landscaping. We did provide a fence here. The whole portion of the side is the interaction with the trail. This is one of the greatest amenities of this side of that connectivity, and we want to see that improved. So the waiver of that southern portion, you can kind of see the sewers in here that we did stack a ton of plants in here. And I do have to note that these are pending potential floodplain approval, so this may change depending on the no rise certificate that they have. The saving of these existing canopy trees and giant dog redwood right where the trailhead is right now. It's a beautiful tree that will be kept, and there will be some trailhead improvements on this section. And I do want to point out that that's 0.81 acres of mature riparian canopy between the trail and the river. Here's just an example of some other of where that landscaping is. You have these islands. Since we have power lines here, we can't meet canopy requirements, so they're all sub-canopy trees, significant shrubs planted in those islands as well. And then this is where you have a couple hundred ferns on the north side of the building mixed with a lot of deciduous evergreen hollies. This is a fully transparent window, so trying to maintain that visual kind of quality. You can also see kind of on the southern building here, we've got redbuds and sub-canopy trees, service berries, and scattered all around the site. And any chance that there's green space, I want to there. We try to do the best that we could to maximize the site's landscape potential and create a quality landscape. Then, in summary, site constraints, floodplains, utilities, and all those things around. We believe we're meeting the objectives of the landscape code, the alternative landscape code, the buffer yard, and utility easement. We think the plan aligns with that state code of the alternative landscape plan, providing a creative, practical, and sustainable approach. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, we'll call you up. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll open it up to any comments or questions from the audience, the public portion. Thank you.
Not created, putting on into trying to make public work, what the really challenge we have here.
Thank you, Mayor Currents. Anyone else? Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead and close the public portion of it and turn it over to the commissioners for any questions or comments. Anyone? Chad, you go right ahead. I knew it.
I was waiting.
I just knew it.
I was waiting. I don't know if this is a question for staff or maybe Mr. Tegler, but I would like some more clarification on the reduction in the buffer yard requirement. On the agenda and one place in the report, it says 5 to 15. Another place in the report, it says 8 to 15. Presentation said 5 to 15. I guess I just want to nail that down and know for sure what we're voting for or voting on.
So I believe there was just a miscommunication in terms of the 5 to 15 and 8 to 15. I believe they want to request 5 to 15 various variable.
Proposed 5 to 15 that we sent over, I think I mean, again, I don't know if we need that, it's just providing flexibility. I think we're providing as much landscaping as possible, and we'll be able to get the plan, and we're meeting that buffer over the time. And that's plan for the length of 5 to 15, works for us. It gives us 30 feet of flexibility in case
My fault. I should have had you come up front for that. If you want to condense it, that's my fault. Kind of come up front, kind of condense your statement. It just hit me.
Sure.
Our audience that might watch it online wouldn't be able to hear you.
I believe the various 5 to 15 feet providing more flexibility for us, and for requested it. 8 or a different size, we're comfortable with that as well. We're just trying to provide enough flexibility so we don't get back and ready for the state.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, wait.
Oh, you got another one?
Well,
Yeah.
just to
Go ahead.
follow up, I make sure I understand. So I mean, whether it's 5 to 15, 8 to 15, I mean, if we go with the 5 to 15, you're committed to put in as much buffer yard as you can fit within the constraints that you have. Okay.
That it's just, it may not match completely, at the 15 and all points of that.
Sure. Right. Understood. Thank you. Just a couple other minor questions that may not really apply, but so does the PUD require a site plan?
The PUD does not
Okay.
generally, but part of the building application,
Okay.
the standard to require a site plan.
So I guess I have some comments, questions, concerns on the site plan. I know that's maybe not, and I don't know if we'll get a chance to review this again, so I'm going to voice them now. Does city code allow commercial parking to be designed in a way that requires cars to back out into the street?
We do not require it. That was a conversation with Public Works
I mean, you
and
allow it, I guess is what I'm asking. You
yes,
allow-
yes, Public Works has worked with the developer. That was part of a traffic calming measure to allow for on-street parking, but
Okay, and then I mean, I guess to go along the same lines on 10th Street, whatever the street is on the east side, to use that parking, you're gonna pull in, you're gonna drive down the street and then back into the parking stall and then somehow make a 160-degree turn to get out of there to go north? Because it's a dead end street. So how do you get turned around?
I believe there is a proposed trailhead parking, so that is one option, but I think Public Works would be able to.
Okay,
We
I
can,
just have concern with the layout of the parking along the street, but
yes.
thank you.
Just to discuss that for just a minute, in our Thursday meeting, pre-agenda meeting, down at the bottom right hand, you kind of see a little turn in that's got 3 parking spots with 1 shaded, or 3 or 4 there. Do you see that? The intention of that is a turnaround. And that piece of property, correct me if I'm wrong, is being acquired or given or something from
They're
the
working with
school system
yes, the school district.
to create that turnaround to where if you're You can turn around and then of course park in nose first into the apartment complex or whatever you want to call that. Or, and I'm not sure that those parking spots are meant to be used, but they probably will be if they're there in the turnaround. So that I understood that turnaround will be put into place for this very specific reason you mentioned. If you don't want to, I wouldn't want to back in and then take that hard left to get out. I would come down, turn around and.
Yeah,
find
that's my
spot.
concern is it's gonna be challenging, especially in a pickup or something, but
Correct,
right.
correct.
thank you.
Anyone else? I've got some, I just got to figure out how to ask it. I made notes. And it may be simply because I just don't remember. When was this approved as a PUD? I don't remember seeing it.
I don't recall exactly. It's been a while. It's been a while,
It's been a
like
minute.
early 2000, early
Oh,
mid 2000.
Really?
like the
Okay,
aughts
that's, yeah, I wasn't here then.
Would be my estimation.
Okay, so it's been a long time.
Yes.
Been a long time, okay. And to clarify, Brian, if you'll come up for just a moment. Just, I wanted to clarify this, and I hate to have you walk up, but, oh, what did I say? Ben, I'm sorry. Yeah, come at anything else, I invite you to dinner, right? To clarify, you mentioned the fence on the southern boundary. You're asking for that to be removed, correct?
Yes.
No fence. Right.
Should take precedent. The landscape
Mhm.
plan was provided. But yeah, the fence in that 25-foot in the floodplains was being.
I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
Yes. I hope. I don't want to keep going back and forth. I'm going to word this wrong, I guarantee it, but here it comes. The acreage between the trail and the river, is that owned by whoever owned it? I don't have the name, that is ownership.
I believe it's the Orchards LLC.
but they own that piece along with the,
Yes.
even though it's floodplain.
The property line goes to approximately the center of the river. So yes, they own that.
Okay.
There is a trail easement and a sewer easement. But they own about the center of the river.
Okay. Okay.
I had a follow-up
Go ahead.
question to that. And so I see the sewer easement in there and it just says Greenway Trail. Is that an easement as well?
Yes, I believe the city has received it probably in the early or the late
Right.
2000s.
I just wanted to make sure that was that. It just, because I know the sewer, it's clearly marked as an easement and that was marked just as a trail. And I know typically there's an easement for the trail. It just didn't state that. So I was just making sure that was still the case.
I believe that is, if not, other staff, public works staff will be working on that.
Okay.
I believe that is the case.
Mhm.
Which, and obviously because of that easement for the sewer, which has to go underground, they can't plant there. But as far as along the trail, even with the easement, if there's any, even existing trees, that's still, and this might be out of the, but any kind of tree maintenance, if it's within the easement area, who does that fall to? Is that on the owner with the easement or?
I believe it's the owner. Randall might have more.
Right. Okay.
Okay, you good?
Yep.
Okay. This is just my curiosity coming forth. Because it mentioned in here on the chart indicating setbacks, okay? You have different setbacks for the front yard and the side yard.
Correct.
Which, if you want to go back to what I call the plat diagram, what is front? It's either got to be the north side or the east side. What's front and what's side?
So we would consider anything touching street frontage to have a front yard setback. So both property along Hall Street and then property along 10th Street would have a front yard setback, but I believe since this is a PUD, I believe they have a 0.
I saw that. Yeah, and that was my next question.
Yes, that is because this is considered a live work unit, and
Okay.
the PUD document we do have does outline that as being the setback requirements for those.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Curiosity is having to do with the buffer, but what's the base flood elevation and how much over that is this 1114?
I believe, and we can definitely talk about this with more detail, but off the top of my head, I believe it is like 1,112 feet. They are proposing to elevate the structures to approximately 114 to be 2 feet above the base flood elevation for the finished floor. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I just was gonna make a couple comments. I really struggled with this one earlier. I didn't have an issue with the eliminating the buffer yard on the west or the south that's in the floodplain. That made perfect sense, but I was struggling with the western buffer yard on the northern portion. But the more I got to looking into it, it's really residential to residential. It's different zoning, but I mean, you have senior living next to this, so I don't really see a huge issue with the reduced buffer yard. So it took me a while to get there, but I do support the request.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you. Adam?
Good.
Trevor?
I just want to say I appreciate the efforts to maintain and retain a lot of these established forest in that area. I took my daughter for a walk along there yesterday, and there's a lot of, like as mentioned, a lot of older trees, and I appreciate the efforts to keep those there and also install other foliage and trees and such between the trail and the proposed site to maintain a really natural area. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that.
Thank you, Trevor. Lacey?
I'm good. I think the plan looks great.
You're good. Right?
I'm
Then
good.
everybody knows what's next. The only thing I want to clarify, since we've had discussion back and forth, the original read of what's being asked for is the variance of 5 feet to 15 feet, not 8. Okay, that's what we're voting on. So we are looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve the variance request for the property location 303 North 10th Street based on staff recommendation.
And second, Chad wanted it. He got it. Roll call vote, please, Megan.
Lacey Colbert,
Aye.
Chad Zikafus, Trevor Branch,
Aye.
Adam Brown,
Aye.
Jeff Garrison,
Aye.
Caleb Berger is absent, Hallie Goldberg is absent, Suzanne Daniel.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Peter, I'm sorry.
Can't leave beat out.
Just
Just so, we gotta get you on there.
I'm sorry, Pete, you were the last one.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And we, of course, any kind of discussion needs to be had, we'll go around the table. Anybody got anything?
Good.
Not everybody at once, okay? Commission comments. I'm gonna say we'll probably have the same thing. No comment. Administrative comments. Megan, anything?
I do not have anything. So
Randall? Ava. Best I can tell, we're clear there too. All right. We'll be missing one thing. Second. And they all said, bye. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you very much.